Hey guys, it's Batjac JW. Time for the after show. We've done a few of these from time to time, and hopefully you've saw the radio show this morning. uh, it's time to talk about nostalgia. Nostalgia. A lot of times that has so much relevance in my life and so many others. Nostalgia. It's just that sentimental time. It's just something, you have an affection for the past or something. Uh, you're just longing for it. It could be, usually it's a time period or just something that reminds you of that time period or something. It's a remembrance of some sort. So, and that has a lot to do with me. I just, there's a lot of stuff I buy because it just brings me back. I mean, there's so many times where I've literally been walking around in the stores and I've seen like some of these like the wrestling figurines things, dolls. That I remember, like, yeah, because that's what, I remember when I had them. They were only about, I don't know, like they were half the size or of what they have now. Everything was half the size. It's interesting. It was the WWF and watching Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Roddy Piper, the Bushwhackers, all that stuff. It's just the nostalgia of it. And I remember seeing some of those. They were bringing back some of those figurines. Terry Funk and Mick Foley as Cactus Jack and all that. Yeah, it's just that kind of stuff just reminds me. And and I got to tell you, I said it over and over and over again. I am so glad that I actually got to live during that time of where stuff was just different. For instance, just the wrestling world. I stopped watching it right after what they called the WWF called. Well, I guess it's now known as the WWE. But that's not what I grew up with. I grew up with the WWF and Hulk Hogan and all those guys. And I stopped watching it after what they called the Attitude Era. The Attitude Era, I felt, was the last of the really good stuff. You could tell they were just like really going overboard with some stuff. And when you see Steve Austin come to the ring with a beer truck and slam it in there and hose everybody down, I mean, you just don't see stuff like that anymore. Now it's just, I don't know, it's so diluted. But yeah, and I got the wonderful memories of going to the video stores with my parents on a Friday night and renting videotapes, VHS and all that. I'm just so thankful that even though it was the tail end of a lot of this stuff, I got to still experience it and, enjoy it. I remember one time, my dad, he was telling me about when he was growing up and the stuff he had, and he said, that we had this thing called the Mattel Shoot and Shell Snub Nose 38, and I said, what the, he started telling me about it, and then, you know what, actually, we got together and we got on the internet and was on eBay, and we started ordering these things. He must have paid, I use we freely, it was his money. He must have paid a pretty penny for this stuff. But I don't know. I mean, it was quite some time ago. But we bought like the Mattel Shoot and Shell, and then we bought like the Nichols Derringer and those things. Really neat. I mean, it was really cool to see this stuff, and for me to see it and see what the toys look like from the '60s and whatnot. It was just so different. It's amazing. Just amazing what you can see. And that kind of thing is, and then you kind of fast forward in through time a little bit, and that's kind of, I guess, why the airsoft thing is, kind of attractive to me in a sense too, because, I mean, that I didn't have nothing like that growing up. I mean, you had a Red Ryder. I grew up, you had a Red Ryder BB gun, and it was it. I mean, of course, I had you could buy toys from the store that actually did shoot things. Plastic pellets and whatnot. I mean, you could buy those things, and this stuff looked real, and it was not painted orange or weird colors. I mean, this stuff was pretty impressive. I mean, now you definitely would not see anything like that in the shelves. Definitely not. Everybody's too afraid of everything. But yet, you get people that go into a gun range and they take everything like it's a big joke. It's like the fact that you can die doing that because you're just being stupid doesn't seem to register with people. But yet we you know, God forbid we give a kid a dart gun that he can play with inside his house, and just not let, don't let Junior take it out to the streets because he might get hurt, because somebody might mistake him for having a real firearm. It's just kind of sad we've come to that. But I'm glad that I got to run around my grandparents' place with my cap gun and make a whole bunch of racket, probably drive my grandparents up the walls. But you know what, God bless their souls, they let me do it. So, and speaking of nostalgia, recently, again, if you saw the radio show, hopefully you saw it, episode 144, I believe. I can't believe we've done over 100 radio shows. That's insane. But I should have bought some records. I know, isn't that crazy? I remember, didn't you say, now for me, I grew up with cassettes. That was my time, cassette tapes. CDs were kind of, they were starting to be, they were pretty much, cassettes were on their way out, but that's what I had. I had a old little boombox radio thing, and that's where I played my cassette tapes, and I had all those old classics and stuff from my grandparents, my mom, and they pretty much handed down a lot of their stuff, and I bought my own. I remember my first cassette tape was Bob Seger and a Silver Bullet Band. But my dad had a track in his car, or truck. But I recently started getting into records because I think they're kind of cool. They're again, that word, what is it? Let's say it together. Nostalgia. Yes, so I bought a couple of records, a few records actually. I'm looking forward to getting it. I bought a record player. So it's actually coming in the mail today. So I'm actually really excited. Hopefully, but I have to go out and do some stuff today. So hopefully I'll get back in time to get its delivery. It'll probably be left in the office at the place I live, so I'll go and get it out of there. But I'm actually curious, I'm just kind of diving into this and just kind of getting started with it. I'm really shocked. I'm fairly shocked. It's the cost to just get started with it. It's really neat. I didn't expect it to be I guess as cheap to get started. Now I'm sure you can go into that rabbit hole and dive deep and get very, very expensive with it all. But just for like somebody like me that just wants to kind of play around with it and see what it's like, just put that finger into the pond without diving in, you can actually get yourself set up for well under $100. That's just like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's not bad at all. So I went down to the local record store here in town, which is amazing that they still have a record store that will still sell cassette tapes and records and record players and cool T-shirts of bands of the times of past and everything that people just don't seem to care about anymore. And you can buy a boatload of CDs and DVDs and things like that, and magazines. It's really cool. So someplace like that I definitely support. I will go there and buy it and give them money rather than going online, because I think it's important to keep places like that going, because during my time, throughout my life, I've seen just about every wonderful store that I've ever loved go out of business and never return. Everything. Everything from Suncoast Videos to Tower Records, Tempo Music, Circuit City, all these wonderful, cool places that you could once go into and purchase tapes and VHS tapes and all that. It's just so long gone. I so miss the times where you used to go to the supermarket and you could actually rent videotapes. I remember back in Hawaii, where I come from, there was a place, it was called Sack and Save. Before that, I believe it was called Food for Lust. I think I don't know if they changed back to it, but anyhow, it was a grocery store. And for some reason, they had the most amazing, elaborate collection of old horror films that you could ever see. And that's where I found and watched a lot of like movies like Phantasm, The Hills Have Eyes, and whatnot, and Halloween. So they had all this stuff. House. Not a lot of people remember House. That was in the 80s. That was actually came up by Sean S. Cunningham, which is the director and creator of the original Friday the 13th with Betsy Palmer. Amazing. Would Betsy Palmer do a movie like that? But it's now it's kind of what she's most known for. Amazing, even though she... Anyway, we're getting off topic. But it was really cool. Just that whole time, that whole everything, you just don't, that's not around anymore. And I think also, for me, it's like, I remember at an early age, I was helping my father change toilets and, in up condominiums, because that's where he was a manager for, doing stuff like that. So getting my hands dirty was no big thing. And now you see these people, I don't know, whatever, and it's like, they won't even touch, it's like, oh my gosh, that's dirty, I don't want to touch that. It's like, the term "use a little elbow grease" is fading away. It doesn't have any relevance anymore, because it's like, I don't want to touch that. It might get dirty. But the record thing is certainly cool. I've been getting into that, and I'm going to check it out. Music was a big part of my growing up in years as a teenager. Music was always there, but it never really took its peak until I was in my teen years. And then my buddy and I started a garage band and all that. And of course, I don't know how in the world, but I mean, there again, I love my parents because they really just, they bought me a drum set. And from that point on, I've always been obsessed with, I've been doing the drums and the music and everything because it's been kind of my first love of something, really, just, that I could create and do. And it's just always been a really cool thing for me. It's a nice, productive, positive hobby that you can get into that really doesn't hurt anybody. Just that's what's cool about it. It's good, clean, fun, healthy hobby that you can get into. I have no idea how I really came to do it. Now, I've always watched other drummers and got kind of ideas and took what I liked from them and taught myself a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I'm not very good, but but I took eventually when I moved to Colorado, I took lessons from a guy, and then actually said, and he said, oh, here's how you do this and this and this, I keep in time and keep your patterns right. And I was like, oh wow, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, I'm actually really curious to see how the records turn out, because I've been told that even from my parents and stuff, that the records, they sound amazing, and nothing sounds like how they did back then. So and it's really cool that they still actually print these things out. You can buy these records here. They're like $20, which is not too bad. But then again, CDs are just like dropping like flies. I guess not. That's not the now everything is, which everybody goes, oh man, that's like past in the day. But now it's like, oh yeah, we just stream that, we just download that. Okay, I'm still like clinging on to my actual something. I need that physical carbon copy of something. I need the book. I can't read it off of a digital screen. I want to hold the book in my hands. I want to turn the page out. It's like, is that so much to ask? So these are really cool that they're actually still printing the records. They're still making them. Metallica, the rock band from the 80s and now, that's the thing, is it's crazy to think about that. I mean, there's a lot of music that I like, and it's like some people go, oh my gosh, well, where'd that come? It's like, actually, a lot of these guys started in the mid to late 70s and got success in the 80s. They really don't realize that some of these guys have been around for 30, 40 years already, for me. But it's cool. Like Metallica actually has their own record press that they make. So when they make their records, they're made on their own machinery. That's crazy. That's I mean that's something to say. I mean this band has their own record machine that produces their records, makes them, whatever. So that's really cool. But anyway, today is going to be an interesting day, and I hope to get some footage for it for you guys. We're going to go out to Old Tucson. Yes, one of my favorite places, and it's a big reason why living out here in Arizona is so cool, because you get to go to places like Old Tucson. So that's where we're going to head out today. So thanks for listening. That is a little bit of nostalgia for you, and look out, because gonna be doing, try to get it done. That keyword is try. Try to get it done. Try to go back into the past and feature some videos on the main channel. Some nostalgic, old school, back to the roots of some good old fashioned revolvers.